What's up guys, Power Off the Barn here. Today I'm going to be doing a deck profile on Merric MC. I'm going to be playing this deck in the weekly that's going to be happening in about an hour from now, 45 minutes to be exact. This deck is not very good and I haven't really tested it at all, but that's fine because this weekly is Swiss format, so even if we do lose 2 games, we still get to continue playing. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Try my best to ensure that doesn't happen, but I make no guarantees. Either way, I haven't made one of these videos in a while. I apologize for that. I mostly just haven't felt much motivation to record. Like at the end of the Tiki video, I said I was going to do a video on Amelia and Valbar MC. I tried playing those decks and they were just like super boring, to be honest. Didn't really enjoy playing them at all, and they weren't very good either, so I opted to not bother making a video on them. And I've just been doing other shit lately. I've been playing Nier. That game is a fucking roller coaster. Been climbing in Shadowverse. I've also been focusing on the recent major that I won. This server feels good, man. Either way, enough about me and my life story. Didn't click on this video to listen to me ramble about the inner workings of my life. You clicked on this video to Craigasm over the best MC in all of Fire Emblem Cipher, Merric. So let's get into what this deck is all about. Merric, 4-3-60, 1-2 range, box standard for most mage MCs. His skill, you flip 1, and if you hit, you draw a card. Problem with this skill is that you flip 1 and your opponent dodges, and you legit just wasted a bond. It also gives you plus 30 when you're attacking a flying unit, but that's literally never relevant, ever. Yeah, the Merric has always been a really subpar MC, generally just outclassed by other MCs. Not much reason to run him until this set gave us the new Luthier 3-2. Luthier's second skill, Spirit Whisper, makes it so that all of your class-changed tome allies cannot be evaded unless they're attacking the main character. So the synergy between these two cards is pretty obvious. Use Merric, Merric's Excalibur, then you have Luthier on the field so your opponent can't dodge Merric, and you get the guaranteed 1-for-1. And then you run Nino, not only because she's Nino, but also because she can stack. She can stack and ensure that Merric doesn't whiff the support on his attack. Then the last super important card that you run in this deck is Ellis. Honestly, this is the main reason why you would ever play Merric over anyone else in like a remotely serious environment. Because Elise makes Merric a 71-2 range, which is pretty good. 71-2 range, very solid. So those are like the 4 core cards in this deck. You're going to try your hand at Merric MC. I would suggest running, obviously you want to run Merric, but I would also suggest running Luthier, Nino, and Elise. I'd say they're pretty essential components to the functioning of the deck. I guess we can get into the other cards. I run 12 Merric mostly just because I like running 12 evades in most of the decks that I play. It just helps your survivability, especially in this meta where aggro is the most dominant playstyle. Selkie and Joshua are very good decks. 12 evades really helps with your survivability. Obviously you run 4 of a 3-2. This card doesn't do anything. If you look at this deck, you'll see that I run 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess I actually do run a decent amount of 1 and 2 costs. I thought I only had like 1 in this entire deck, but yeah. If you deploy a 1 or 2 cost with this guy is up, then you get to draw a card. Ideally, you're never using this skill because if you're using it, it means that you missed your main promo. But as far as backup bridge promos go, 3-2 Merric isn't bad at all. Then we run 4 of a 1 cost. We run this card as our starter because it's superior. And then for the other 3, I run this card because I prefer the artwork. Flyers, 16 flyers in this deck. We have Eliwood 5. Contrary to popular belief, Eliwood 5 is a flyer. If you look closely at his artwork, you will see those glorious wings. Shanna 1, standard rescue flyer, and Faye. Any deck that's running red runs Faye in this format. She's just too good not to run. As for the rest of the deck, I have Delthea. Delthea is probably not a very good option in this deck. Not a very good option in general, but for those of you who listen to my angry Ravings and Cipher Chord, you know that I really, really, really like Dalthea, so I'm going to try and make her work in this deck. So Dalthea, I feel like she works exceptionally well in this deck for two reasons. First reason is that you draw a lot of cards with her, which is nice because 80% of the time Dalthea is just going to be a 71 to 3 range, which isn't bad, but she's only a 71 to 3 range if you have more cards in your hand than your opponent, which isn't always easy to do because when you're playing her, you probably bonded a card earlier, so on average you're going to have 2 less cards in your hand than your opponent by the time she enters the field. Meaning that it can be hard to actually get more cards in your hand than your opponent unless you actually overclassed her, which you aren't doing most of the time, because you overclass is super inconsistent. Either way, Merric draws a lot of cards, so he helps with that. Helps make it so that you can get the 71 to 3 range on Dalthea more consistently. The second reason I like Dalthea a lot in this deck is because you run Ellis. Ellis can Alm Dalthea. In fact, Dalthea is the only thing you're ever going to be Alming with Ellis because you don't run Bowie in this deck. If you were building a more optimal variant of this deck, I'd probably try and make room for the main Bowie engine instead of running like Dalthea, but whatever. Waifu takes priority over all else. But yeah, you don't run Bowie in this deck, so you Alm for Dalthea most of the time. You can probably Alm for Faye a lot of the time, but I like the Alm for Dalthea 1 play a lot, because Alming a Dalthea 1 on the field forces your opponent to focus her down no matter what, regardless of whether you actually have the overclass in your hand or not, because Dalthea 1 is like, if you're on the opposing side, you cannot run the risk of getting Dalthea overclassed. The risk is just too high. So it's a nice bluff play if you don't have the overclass in your hand. You can just drop Dalthea 1 and your opponent is just attacking this 1 cost that is actually completely useless for you. Takes a lot of pressure off of you, puts a lot of pressure on them. So yeah, the existence of Alm Staff and the fact that Merric draws a lot of cards makes me think that Dalthea has a semi-decent chance of actually doing something in this deck. As for the other cards in the deck, I believe the only other one that I haven't gone over is Mir. Oh yeah, and Lissa. I run Lissa because I don't want to get blown out by Greedman at least. Mir, just a decent late game card. I was playing around with some other variants of this. Well, I didn't actually play with any of them. I haven't played this list at all yet, but juggling some other ideas around in my head before I put this list together. I was thinking I was going to run like both Tiki and Mir. At one point I was actually going to run Naui over Mir and Splash Blue instead of, or Splash both Blue and Purple and go Tricolor, but also make room for Calico overclass, but like, this deck is way too tight for that. I'd have to run like 8 flyers in order to do that. I don't want to do that. But yeah, Mir, just a generic, good late game card. 80 base, lets you grab stuff from your bonds, so you don't end up with like 10 face down cards in your bonds during super grindy matchups, so that's always good. And 80 base is also great, obviously. So yeah, that's about it really. You hit things with Merric, you draw cards, and you just play your other shit. You get the 6 bonds, you play your Mir. Hopefully you Dalthea overclass them. Hopefully that'll work well as like a nice win con of sorts. Yeah, we'll see how this deck runs. I feel like this deck isn't too greedy compared to some of the other variants I was thinking about trying, but we'll find out. Hopefully I will see you then.